25 years ago or so, I was fortunate enough to be asked to go on a tour that visited a big collector in Cincinnati. And he had a house. He was an engineer. He loved antique cars. He had amazing cars. And in his house, he had 25 or 30 cars spread throughout his house. He had a Mercer Raceabout in his bathroom. He had Duesenbergs in his living room. And I was invited to come along with a couple guys that were going to visit him and see his cars. And as we were walking through the collection, and I was completely flabbergasted with what he had, this car sat over in a corner. And I was a Packard guy. I'd fallen in love with Packards. And this car just caught my fancy. I just instantly fell in love with it. I didn't know anything about its history. I didn't know what that had been Carl Fischer's car. I didn't know about the racing heritage. I didn't know anything about it other than I just loved the car. I loved the way it looked. I loved the style of it. I loved the brass accompanying features. It was just a really neat car.
I got it just by them having cars, I guess. You know, I just loved to jump in the car and get behind the steering wheel and make off so I was driving, you know. And since I was a kid, I just loved when my father would buy me a bike. The first thing I'd do was take it in the basement and take it apart, you know.
You know, people say, well, isn't that hard to drive? These cars were made to drive, you know, by people like us. And believe it or not, they're relatively easy to drive. It's amazing the performance they had back then. Sure, a car like this is not going to corner like a '69 Camaro, but the ride on them is phenomenal. And yes, I say each one of them is different.
And I think an important point, and I've started to hear people say this at shows, is they go, man, guys designed these things without any computers. They did these things with slide rules and with manual drawing. So that really is an important thing, that these cars, these pre-computer age cars, are not only devoid of any digital electronics, they are all mechanical and all of their ignition systems are electromechanical. They were designed without any help from computers, so it's truly something that came out of someone's head.
At one time, you know, Indiana made more cars than Michigan, but then that changed. But Indiana was second in automobile production. A lot of cars were made in Indianapolis. I have a list that hangs in my car barn of all the cars made in Indiana, and it just amazes you. There must be a couple hundred on there at least. They were made in almost every major town in Indiana, and some really small towns. You know, a lot of them were assembled cars. The manufacturers bought the engine from somebody, the transmission from somebody, the rear end from somebody, and just put that together. But there still was a lot of cars made in Indiana. Just in my little town of Greensburg of 11,000 people, there were 3 different brands of cars made. Not very many of each one, but there were 3 different cars made there.
Well, for one thing, it's art. These cars are just, especially these 2 here and the others that you're going to have at your function, are art. In Kokomo, of course, Kokomo's been an automobile town for years. It's the only town in the whole country that has manufactured cars or car parts for a continuous 126 years. And we're going to have a bicentennial here in Kokomo next year, celebrating the automobile. But the people in this area, a lot of them made their livelihood. They've raised their families. They've sent their kids to school because of the automobile. And I think they need to realize where it came from, where it started.
Well, there are collectors that have all levels of knowledge relative to cars. There are guys that have just a lot of money and they go out and they hire RM or something to develop an instant collection. And they really don't know anything about cars themselves. They know it's a Packard, it's a Duesenberg, or what it is. But as far as what's right on the car, being able to raise the hood on the 37 Packard 12 and say, that's right, that's wrong, they can't do that. But that's okay, they're preserving the cars, and they're not making them into hot rods or something. And there are guys in the club that drive the cars, and they look like old cars. They look like used cars. That's okay, they're still preserving the cars. The other guys just want trailer queens, and they want to restore them, and they just don't even want to get dust on them, do anything. All they do is drive on a trailer, go to a show, and drive off. But again, they're preserving the cars, and that's fine. There's facets of the hobby. The people that want them perfect and never drive them. People drive them all the time. And then there are people that blend a little of both. I kind of blend a little of both.
You know, one thing about the cars, you meet so many neat people, and you get to see collections that other people never have a chance to see. And it's just a lot of camaraderie that goes with the cars. We've met people from all over the world through the cars.
Yeah.
I was telling the other gentleman about meeting the man in Russia. We were on the Volga River, and we met a man from California, had this common interest in cars. He knew Gene Perkins, and he knew Ed Dalton from here. So here we are in Russia on the Volga River talking to a man from California about car people in Indiana. So it goes all over the world.
Kalous Gulbenkian's car, and it stayed at the Ritz Hotel all its life in Paris. That's the other thing about this hobby. The history that you get to find, and you can just keep digging and digging and digging until you get the original owner. And then you find out there are books written about these people, and what went on in the back of that car was, you probably couldn't talk about a lot.
I don't know if it's one memory in particular, but he had a way of turning family excursions to include the cars. So we'd hop in the cars and go to get ice cream, or we'd go to a park for a picnic, or the destination became less important than which old car we would get there in.